Welcome back to World of Immersion. Today, we are going to be talking about the one and only Fright Fest at Six Flags Magic Mountain, and we're going to be ranking every single maze from this year. Now, this year at Fright Fest, they had a total of 8 mazes, 2 of which were brand new for this year, both of them being IP mazes with Saw X and The Conjuring, so there was a lot to check out. Overall, however, with this event, I was pretty disappointed. I thought the maze quality was not that great, especially compared to other Halloween events in Southern California. However, there's still a lot to talk about, and there were definitely some good mazes for this year, so we're going to be ranking all 8 of them from worst to best. But before we start today's video, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss when we have brand new content. We still have tons more Halloween content coming up as the Halloween season comes to an end. And we have tons of other events that we're checking out. In fact, tonight we're going to the Howloo Scream for the first time, so be sure to stay tuned for that vlog coming out later this week. But with that being said, let's get right into the video. Alright, so starting off in number 8 in last place, we have actually one of the brand new mazes for this year. This was The Conjuring. Now, this maze was the first maze we did at the event this year, and it was really, really disappointing. To be honest, it was probably the worst maze I've done at any Halloween event ever, which is really sad to say because I love the Conjuring movies. I think that it was a really cool idea to do a Conjuring IP maze. I thought that would have turned out pretty well. However, aside from the first 2-3 scenes, it is pretty much all black walls in the entire maze, and it's also one of the shortest mazes I've ever done in my life. The first scene is pretty cool. They do have some actors in there acting out the 2 main characters in the films, and that's pretty cool, but the scare actor in there is kind of just alright. The set design in that first scene is pretty good, but then you just kind of go down one long dark hallway, and there's a scare actor at the end, and then there's one more scene with actors in it, and then other than that, it's just kind of a blank hallway with a few extra actors in there, and the finale is also really disappointing. It kind of just felt like they put together some random animatronics in some random scenes just to kind of fill up the empty space towards the end of the maze. And honestly, the main thing for me that really killed this maze was how quiet it was. There was zero audio, no soundtrack, nothing going through the entire maze, which made it really hard to enjoy the maze. With most mazes, you get that soundtrack or even just sound effects that kind of add to the atmosphere so much, and when it's just silent, it feels awkward. The scares feel a lot more awkward than scary. Sometimes silence can be creepy if it's done correctly, however, it really just felt like it was missing something, especially missing audio, and that's why it comes in at last place on this list. Next, coming in at number 7 is going to be the only outdoor maze on this list, Aftermath 2 Chaos Rising. Now, this maze is okay. It's not one of my favorites. In fact, it's always been one of my least favorites when they've had it in the past. And I think maybe it's time for something else in the location where Aftermath 2 is. It's a cool maze, don't get me wrong. However, just in general, in my opinion, indoor mazes are so much better than outdoor mazes. And this one just really isn't that good, too. It feels like every year there's less and less scare actors, and the effects stop working. It's a really cool maze. It's a long maze. It's just really not able to compete with some of the other mazes, especially from this year when the mazes have gotten a little bit better too. I think it's time for Aftermath 2 to go away. That's not to say it's a bad maze though. It's definitely a lot better than The Conjuring, and like I said, it's a lot longer. However, once again, it kind of suffers from some of the same things that The Conjuring does with the lack of audio. Honestly, I'm going to be honest right here, none of the mazes had much audio in them whatsoever, which really kills a lot of the atmosphere. That's something that almost every other event I've been to does really well, is making those mazes loud and have a lot of audio in them. None of the mazes at Fright Fest really have that, and it just makes it so much more awkward. But let's move on to number 6, and at number 6 we have Vault 666 Unlocked. This one is pretty cool. It's been one of my favorites in years past. However, this year I feel like they just had less and less actors in there than they normally do. It's a cool maze, don't get me wrong, so the set design is pretty decent. It's a little bit short in my opinion compared to some of the other mazes on this list, and like I said, it just felt like there were a lot less scare actors in there than normal. They had some cool scares in there definitely that felt different than they normally did, like they put scare actors in different locations, and it seemed like they had some more effects in there than they normally do. But just overall, I think it's kind of a mediocre maze. It's not one of my favorites, but it usually doesn't get that long of a line, so it's a good one to hit up during your night at the event. And next, coming in at number 5, is going to be a maze that has actually jumped up quite a lot on my list. In fact, I had this maze, I believe, in last place from last year, and this is Willoughby's Resurrected. This one I felt like was the complete opposite of Vault 66, where they had a lot more actors in there. And I feel like this was the only maze, correct me if I'm wrong, I could be getting this wrong, but I feel like this was the only maze that had audio in it, which was really cool to see. There was some sound effects, there was kind of a soundtrack a little bit going through the whole maze, And this one also is one of those mazes that really doesn't get much of a line, so I would definitely recommend checking it out if you can. It's really cool. It's up at the upper lot right next to Ninja. It's in a cool location, and the set design on this one's pretty decent too, so I definitely would recommend checking it out if you can. Coming in at number 4, though, is going to be Sewer of Souls. Now, this is by far the most unique maze on the list. This one is really cool with how it utilizes those 3D glasses that make all of the different environments in this maze come to life. It's really cool. It's very different than any other maze I've been in. That being said, though, the scares are kind of mediocre, and it's a pretty short maze. And this one also starting to feel a little bit outdated. The scare actors, it feels like there's less and less every year. But like I said, it's still a really cool concept, and it's very unique compared to the other mazes, so it definitely stands out a lot. So that's why it comes in higher on the list than most of the other ones. But moving on to the top 3, and these are where these top 3 I feel like are pretty solid mazes. Coming in at number 3 is going to be the new for 2022 maze. This is Truth or Dare. Now, last year, this maze was really awful. There was pretty much no set design whatsoever. The scares were okay. However, there was zero set design. It was pretty much black walls the entire maze. However, this year, they have changed it up so much. The set design is some of the best, I think, out of any of the mazes in the event. It really feels like they're telling the story throughout the maze. This one was a lot better. I think that the scares were pretty cool in this. They have some unique ones. They have characters flying above you, some guys that are jumping down at you. I thought it was a really cool maze. I think that it's got some really cool effects in it too. It's got one of those water effects where it kind of feels like you're walking through water with like the lasers and the fog effects. That's really cool. Overall, it was a pretty solid maze. It's a long maze too, and it's one of the only ones that has a pre-show, which I thought was really cool to see. But coming in at number 2 is going to be returning maze from Scream Break earlier this year, and this is Condemned House Party. So it used to be called Condemned just by itself, and now it's Condemned House Party, where they've turned the entire house into a party, like almost like a frat party going on. It's a really cool theme. And overall, it's just one of the scariest mazes, in my opinion. They have a lot of scare actors packed in there, and the scare actors have some really good scares. I think this might be the scariest maze of the event. It was really cool to see this one returning from Scream Break. It was definitely my favorite during that event. I thought it was a really cool event, and that maze was definitely the highlight of it. It was really cool to see it come back. Once again, this is one of those mazes that really doesn't get that long of a line, so definitely make sure to hit this one up when you're visiting the park, because those IPs are going to get really long lines with The Conjuring and Saw, but the other mazes don't really get that long of a line, which is really nice to see. But yeah, Condemned is a really great maze. Definitely check it out if you can on your event, and definitely was one of the highlights of Fright Fest for me. However, it does not take the number 1 spot, and that honor goes to Saw X, the brand new for 2023 maze. This one opened last weekend. I was there for opening weekend. It was actually really, really cool. I thought that it would be a lot worse because we had done The Conjuring, and we didn't really like The Conjuring very much at all, judging by its 8th place spot on this list. However, Saw X was a lot better. It was really cool. It was definitely the best maze from this year at Fright Fest, in my opinion. It was a decently long maze. The set design was really cool. It was really cool to see a lot of the traps from all different Saw films, not just Saw X. The scare actors in there were really good. They also had some of those timed scares with flashing lights. The only thing I wish they had was some audio in there. It was really silent once again, but the scare actors did a really good job, and the set design, like I said, was really, really good. The only thing, though, about this maze, besides the audio, was the line was insane. We had the Express Pass, and we waited 85 minutes with Express. I can't even imagine how long that general line is. That's due to the fact that they are sending in groups of 5 to 8 people every minute, which is really, really bad for capacity. But we're going to have an entire different video on that, explaining what the issue is with Fright Fest and our total review of the event, because while the mazes might not be that bad, the mazes were pretty good, there were some other glaring issues that we noticed with Fright Fest. So like I said, we're going to have an entire other video about that. But that's going to do it for our video today, ranking all of the mazes at Fright Fest. Overall, like I said, it was fun checking out these mazes. However, would I recommend you go to this event? To be completely honest, no. If I was choosing to go to an event, I would probably choose Halloween Horror Nights or Not Scary Farm over this event any day. And even some of the smaller events I would probably take over this because it can get pretty expensive. But like I said, we're going to have a full review of this event on our channel, explaining what the issues are with the event this year and just in years past, and what they can do better moving forwards. However, the scare actors were doing a great job this year, and I think that the set design in some of the newer mazes was pretty cool, and I really hope that they continue moving in the direction with IP mazes, because I can see it going really well with how well Saw X went. However, that's going to do it for our video today. Thank you so much for watching. We've got tons of more Halloween content coming up in the near future, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching World of Immersion today, and we'll catch you in the next video.